Jeff Duncan, who's now with The Athletic, covering the Saints down in New Orleans, kind enough to jump on with us here on this Monday morning. Jeff, good morning. How are you, man?
I'm doing great, guys. How you doing?
Doing good. We were talking earlier in hour number one. Michael Thomas's number continues to plummet at the negotiating table because of Emmanuel Butler, the new wide receiver with the Saints. Is he the early storyline here?
Yeah, look, every year it seems like there's a camp sensation. One of the running jokes in the media corps is who's the camp beast, and it's clearly going to be Emmanuel Butler this year. And look, this is my 20th training camp, so I'm very slow to jump on the hype train. You know, I've seen these guys, these camp beasts, flash early in camp, and then the grind gets to a player, and they don't even end up making the roster. But I will say this. Emmanuel Butler has flashed consistently. He's stacking days back to back, and that's important for a young player. And it's at a position where the Saints need some help. There are very few open spots on this roster, but receiver, the depth at receiver is an area where a young player, I think, could come in and make an impact, and he's certainly impressed early on. And even Sean Payton is a guy who is also not prone to jumping on the bandwagon, and even he's starting to say some positive things about Emmanuel Butler. That's a good sign for him.
Yeah, Jeff, I was going to go there next. It seems like this roster is very secure in a lot of spots, and even in the depth to that point. Where is the opening on this roster? I mean, if there is a guy looking to make it, where's the competition at?
Well, I think you can see where the competition is by where the Saints are still looking for talent. I mean, they obviously brought in Theo Riddick yesterday. I think there's still some concern about depth at running back behind Alvin Kamara and Latavius Murray, and I think Theo Riddick would be a good fit. They just signed an offensive lineman. I think they're concerned a little bit about their third tackle. I think there's still concerns potentially in the secondary. They could add some depth there. But I think what we're seeing, guys, is, this roster is so stacked. They're right now trying to procure depth in case contingency plans, put it that way. Alvin Kamara is going to be the lead back here, but if he were to go down, there's no more Mark Ingram there. So they're thinking, how could we survive if Alvin Kamara goes down? Latavius Murray and Theo Riddick would be a pretty good platoon there. That's how stacked this roster is. They're not having to plug and look for starters or even backups. They're looking for maybe third stringers in case the normal attrition sets in an NFL season. That's a really good sign for the Saints.
So what is the latest on Riddick real quick?
Well, I mean, look, he came in for a visit. He's going to make a couple more visits. He's a veteran player that's going to be attractive to a lot of teams. I think what's going to come down to Theo Riddick and his representation is what does he want at this stage of his career? He had a prominent role in Detroit, and then his role kind of diminished when Matt Patricia became the head coach. But he would fit perfectly into the Saints offense. Joe Lombardi, the quarterback's coach, was his offensive coordinator in Detroit, so he's very familiar with Riddick's playing style and what he can do in this offense. So I can see why the Saints are attracted to him, but he's going to have a number of suitors, so I don't think we'll hear anything anytime soon.
Talking to Jeff Duncan of The Athletic, going through his 20th Saints training camp. And, Jeff, it looks like replacing Max Unger, in my mind, a lot of people's minds, is the main question that this team has to answer. Three-man rotation, Cam Tom, Nick Easton, Eric McCoy. Is there a leader in the clubhouse? Am I wrong to say that they really like Cam Tom there a lot more than maybe we give them credit for?
Well, I'm shocked, T-Bob, that you would think center is a critical position. Stunning to me. Absolutely stunning.
Got to stay on brand.
Look, I think they want Eric McCoy to win the job. And you know how this goes, T-Bob. I mean, he's going to have to win it. They're not going to hand it to him.
Yeah.
But he's got the most physical talent. You can see it on the field. I mean, he's a big, strong guy. Physically, I think he's the most talented guy there. But you're right. They like Cameron Tom a lot. And they like Nick Easton. They're not down on him at all. I think they like the versatility of Cam Tom and Nick Easton. And with a young player like Eric McCoy coming in right out of college, I don't think they want to overload his circuitry right now. I think they're going to keep him at center, and I think they like the fact that Nick Easton is an Ivy League guy, who's played in the league a few years. He could fill that Senio Kelamente role of bouncing around between center and guard. I think he's much more equipped to handle that because he's a veteran than, say, Eric McCoy. But I don't think they're going to hand the job to McCoy at all. And I don't think it's determined yet who's going to win. I mean, there's still weeks to go here and preseason games to play. I think it's a three-way battle. And I can tell you, this team's interior offensive line depth is the best it's ever been. They like Will Clapp a lot, and he's right now, I think, third team, but they like him. So that tells you how deep this team is along the interior, and I think they're really fortified there in case some injuries crop up like it did a year ago inside.
We mentioned Emmanuel Butler to start the interview. Is there a position group or a name that you're watching in camp to maybe make a leap, or somebody that has tipped you off to maybe watch this guy or watch this group?
No, not particularly. I mean, I think Emmanuel Butler has definitely popped up. I would say this, the two young safeties on this team that I don't think a lot of people knew about in the draft, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson from Florida and Saquon Hampton from Rutgers, both of them have played very well. And I think I'm always looking down the road. I'm sure that the Saints are looking down the road. You can't pay everybody, right? And the Saints right now are trying to negotiate with Michael Thomas. And it's a difficult negotiation because it's such an extraordinarily, lucrative deal that they're trying to sign Thomas to. The largest deal other than Drew Brees in the history of the Saints franchise.
Yeah.
But Mickey Loomis and the rest of the front office, they're looking down the road and they're staring at having to sign Alvin Kamara, Ryan Ramczyk, Marshawn Lattimore. All these guys are going to want to get paid, and they're all coming due. The bills are due in the same year or two. So it's going to be very difficult. And the reason I bring up the safety position is you've got two good young safeties the Saints like, Von Bell and Marcus Williams. But I've got a feeling that they're not going to get paid. And I'm just total speculation. And no one said that to me. But you've got two young safeties behind them that look good to me. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, they haven't played a game yet. Saquon Hampton, but they were drafted for a reason. And if you've got good depth there, that's how this game works. I mean, the salary cap era, you can't pay everybody. Maybe the safeties are the ones that don't get paid because these two young guys are already flashing talent. The same, I would say, for Andres Pete, a guy who, is a quality player, has played in the Pro Bowl, but the Saints have such good interior depth along the offensive line. They could plug and play Cameron Tom at guard next year or Nick Easton and let Andres Pete walk because they simply can't pay everybody else. So I guess I'm not answering totally your question, but those guys have flashed to me early on, and I'm already starting to look at like what the roster would look like in 2020 or 2021.
No, I mean, look, it's a very valid point. When you draft really well, like they did a couple years ago, it all kind of everything comes calling at one time. I'm talking to Jeff Duncan of The Athletic. Jeff, what do you think about Jared Cook and the Drew Brees connection? Yeah. Jordy thought he had. I did lose my train for a second. But Jared Cook, man, there was so much made about Kobe Fleener back in the day. That never really amounted to anything. What's the early return on Cook and Brees?
Man, if you're a fantasy football owner, draft Jared Cook. I'm telling you, he is going to have a monster year. I'll be stunned if he doesn't have a huge year. Drew Brees is throwing to him every chance he gets, and that just speaks to Drew Brees, right? The purpose he has in mind when he practices. He knows Jared Cook's going to be a big part of this offense. He knows he missed some time in the mini camps, so he's working right now every pass. I'm talking like in 7-7, 9-on-7. He is working the ball to Cook because he knows what kind of year he needs to have. Because right now, the playbook against the Saints, the blueprint was formed by the Dallas Cowboys and the LA Rams in the playoffs, and that is you double team Mike Thomas, you pay extra attention to Alvin Kamara out of the backfield, and no one else can beat you. Well, that's not going to be the case now with the tight end like Jared Cook on the weak side. I think if people overload Thomas's side of the field, they're going to stick Cook over on the weak side, and he's going to have a field day in single coverage. So I don't think there's any doubt about it. If he can stay healthy, he's going to have a huge year.
I have 45 seconds. You expect the same season from Marcus Davenport?
Oh, I think he's going to have a breakout season. Now, I don't know if he's going to have double-digit sacks. I mean that's hard to say. But he is a very solid player. He's a powerful player. I think he's going to continue to get better, and he's going to see a lot of single blocks, especially when Sheldon Rankins comes back and you plug him in there along with Cam Jordan. teams are going to have trouble, I think, blocking this Saints defensive line when they get to full health midseason.
Same Twitter account, same Twitter handle at Jeff Duncan _. New platform, writing for The Athletic over there in New Orleans, covering the Saints, as he does it as good as anybody. Hit him on Twitter this morning. Thanks for the time, Jeff.